a while ago.
Can you hear me now? Let me see that.
It's on. Oh, it's off. Just kidding.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, it's on.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. He had bad intel.
Well, again, we would like to welcome you to the April 6th Calaveras Council of Governments meeting. If you would please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first order of business this evening is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial and will be acted upon by the council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or interested party may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda for further discussion. I know that we are asking to have item 5 pulled by the staff as there's an adjustment to that. Are there any other items?
On item 2, the minutes from the previous meetings, I have to abstain for those, so it's not in
Okay.
attendance.
So when we vote, we'll note that you're abstaining from the minutes.
Yes, approval of those minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I also have to abstain. I was not present
Okay.
during that meeting.
Okay. Are there any other items? Anyone from the public that would like to pull an item? Seeing none, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda, noting that we have 2 abstentions on the approval of minutes by...
I would move the balance of the consent agenda.
Moved by Councilmember Merides. Wait a second. Second by Councilmember Camelano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. On the regular agenda, our first item, item 5 that has been pulled by staff, the minute order ratification of the advisory committee member recommendation for San Andreas Commercial Gateway Corridor Study. Amber.
Good evening, Council. I just pulled this item because since submission of the staff report last Wednesday, I did receive one more application from Eric Young, who is the fire chief here in San Andreas with the Fire Protection District. And so he'll be representing that district, and I added that to the minute order as a member of the advisory committee. And I also received from the Mark Twain Medical Center commitment of an individual who's unfortunately been out on leave. So I didn't receive an application from them, so I added to the minute order just representative from Mark Twain Medical Center to the advisory committee. And those are the changes I have to that.
So if I understand this correctly, there are currently 7 applications received. We're adding an 8th, Don Young, and a 9th, an at-large or a representative from Mark Twain, and we're just going to leave it at that.
Correct, because I didn't receive an application from them, so I don't feel that I should put their name down yet because there's not official commitment on it.
Okay. Any comment by staff regarding the ratification of the advisory committee members? Justin?
So it said approximately 8 to 12 individuals, being that we do now have 8. Is that going to be it for, are we still going to look for additional applicants?
There are representatives that we did reach out to that said they were interested but never ended up submitting applications. So I feel that if they do end up submitting an application, we might be able to consider, if the council is okay with that, accepting a few other applications from representatives of maybe the school district or the sheriff's department, areas that they didn't end up submitting the applications, if that's okay.
And the first advisory committee meetings for next week on April 13th?
That was a tentative time. I heard from a couple of members that doesn't work, so I'm going to have to pull the committee once this is officially approved.
But we're looking to see this move forward pretty quickly.
Right.
Any further comment by the council?
Mr. Chair, if I can recommend that we set a cutoff date for application to be accepted. Do we have time for that?
Sure, absolutely. I think that would be fine if that's the council's desire, so that we can continue moving forward with the team and stakeholders with the project. So I think that would be perfectly acceptable.
Great, excellent.
Any further discussion by the council? Do you have a date you'd like to see suggested? We're talking like May 15th.
How quickly do you want it to start?
I would ask, what was the tentative first meeting date desired?
Yeah, we were hoping April 13th, but it looks like that'll probably be moved back another week or so for the first meeting date. And we were hoping to meet with the advisory committee first before we went out with the first public meeting. And I think we were tentatively trying to get a first public meeting by early May.
So I think if we said 30 days from the first advisory committee meeting, that way as advisory committee members meet, if they have other partners in the community they'd like to extend an invitation, that would allow us an additional 30 days to come back to this board and include them in the next meeting.
It sounds like
Okay.
sounds like a plan.
That's fine with me, too.
So as amended, we are 9 members right now, with the caveat that the additional applications will be accepted, not necessarily approved, but accepted up to 30 days past the first meeting of the advisory committee.
Very good. Okay.
Do we have any interested public wishing to comment on this? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
By Councilmember Muniz, a second.
Second.
Second, Catalano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved 7-0. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Public comment is limited to 5 minutes per person. Comments shall be limited to items of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Do we have any public comment this evening? Okay. Report out of closed session. We had a closed session at the conclusion of the meeting in March. There's no reportable action. We are tabling item number 11, the acknowledgement of Debbie Ponte for her service, and we are taking item 15, which is the unmet transit needs public hearing, and we're going to have that at this time. The unmet transit needs is actually item number 15 in your agenda if you're following along. First thing we're going to do is an open public hearing regarding unmet transit needs. I think. Amber, you're up.
Well, unmet transit needs is a process that's held annually as a requirement of the Transportation Development Act, and it's really an opportunity to get feedback from the community on unmet transit needs, particularly those needs that are not met by current transit services funded through the Transportation Development Act. And part of this annual process, we also collect feedback through an unmet transit needs form that is distributed throughout the community, and we get help from our Social Services Transportation Advisory Committee, which consists of a lot of social service and human service agencies, and they help distribute those forms throughout the community. We receive that input as well as any phone calls or emails and any other type of forums that we receive on that transit needs. That comes to the SISTAC on an annual basis for their review and analysis of what unmet transit needs that are not met and whether they're reasonable to meet. Then I write a report to the council, which gets adopted in August and goes to Caltrans in mid-August. So as part of that process, tonight we're opening up a public hearing, and so I'll pass it on to the council.
So
I noticed that there was a city council public session yesterday supposed to be, but the meeting was canceled, so has that been rescheduled?
It has not. So we're annually mandated to do one public hearing, which is at our council meeting, and every year we do one at the City of Angels, and unfortunately that got canceled, and our SISTAC meets on the 19th, and they have a quarterly meeting schedule, so if we miss that meeting with SISTAC, we might not be able to meet the August deadline to submit the transit needs report.
okay. And I understand that this is for public comment only, and that no responses are to be given. This is just a public comment. All right, so I'll open the public hearing for public comment on the unmet transit needs. Is there public comment?
Hi there, Kathy Topol, Common Ground Senior Services. We have 96 public comment unmet transit needs here that I wanted to turn into Amber. Also, we have, I think, probably given you about 20 already. I do want you to know that we are the provider of Meals on Wheels, and one of the things that we're noticing in these surveys is all of these surveys are being done by people that are out and about in the community. And so we've taken it on ourselves as Common Ground to get into these people's homes and help them fill out these surveys. So these surveys are filled out by a volunteer with the person on the phone giving them their responses. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the additional effort to make that a viable public comment.
Absolutely.
Is there any other public comment? Oh. Public comment is closed. Item number 12, a minute order requesting approval of the fiscal year 2016-17 draft operation budget. This is Ms. Raggio.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even start. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff requests the council approve the fiscal year 16-17 draft operations budget. The budget totals $547.61. The only change from the approved 15-16 amendment number 3 are the annual merit increases for the unrepresented employees. That's per our policies and procedures, and that totals, if you're looking at attachment 12A, that totals $6,749. And then line item 5049, which is the PERS employer's contribution, totals $1,900 for a total increase of $3,740. At this time, this is our draft. Staff will be coming back to the council in June with our final. And if the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Any questions by council on the item number 12? And looking at this, I believe this actually was a consent agenda item, or is it just titled consent agenda item?
Oh, it could be our.
This is a regular. This is
Yep.
a regular.
Oh, yeah. Yes, not a consent.
Okay.
This is trying to work in our new system under the templates.
Okay.
So I think we decided in the next one, we'll eliminate that.
Okay. Any questions by council on this item?
One question. On page 12, or just the consent agenda item number 12, first page, it says salary and wages $8,539. I think you said a different number than that.
Yeah, I think that's a typo. I'm
Okay.
sorry. The total increase to the 5001 is the 6,749.
Yeah, that's in the,
Okay.
the regular operations budget. I'm trying to
Yeah, my breakdown on the staff report.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Sorry about
Justin.
that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other-
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Could you give me that figure in the percentage as compared to the amount of increase?
So if you went with the unrepresented employees, which total 3 employees in COG, 2 received 5% increases. The 3rd employee was at their E-step, so only received a 2.5 increase.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2016-17 draft operation budget?
Public comment. Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any public comment?
Jeff Krovitz, Public Works. We did a little bit of review on this budget, and it looks pretty good, although it appears to us that we might have to rethink our budget on our transit because of the way TDA is being apportioned, and that's the majority of the funding source for transit. So we will be coming back, revising our budget, and working with COG staff to make sure that our 2 budgets are resolved. Questions?
Any comment?
The executive management committee, that is made up of the CAO, the city manager, the chair, and the vice chair of COG, makes all the administrative decisions. So COG staff will be meeting with the executive management group. They have the final recommendation that we will bring back to the council.
In June? Okay. Any further comment? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2016-17 draft?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
7. Okay. Regular agenda item number 13, this is an adoption approving the fiscal year 2016-17 draft overall work program and planning, programming, monitoring, and execution expenditure plan. Ms. Reggio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff is requesting that council approve our draft 16-17 overall work program and planning, programming, and monitoring expenditure plan. This overall work program was taken to the Technical Advisory Committee. And the two major or significant changes, if you can look at attachment 13A, which is the worksheet. The major changes are work element 1617-7, which is the regional transportation plan update, which we increased using our RPA funding. So the council just approved the contract award in the consent agenda, so we'll begin work on that work element. The other significant change is work element 1617-10, which is the mobility management grant. And as you can see, we've moved the grant funding under the contract column, under grants and other. So $186,000 is reflected there. Staff is working on an RFP, and all of the work element tasks are in the overall work program narrative. The annual draft is due to Caltrans March 1st of every year. Staff requested an extension. We were working on the RTIP, so we received an extension until April 7th. So staff is asking for your approval, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions by council?
What is COG's role in the mobility management?
I'll hand that over to Melissa.
Okay.
I know. In my head, I just went, how far back do we go?
Well, no, maybe I'll tell you why I'm asking, and that might help you out. Okay, I'm also part of the JPA 12 Area Agency on Aging board member, and one of the things our county has not done a good job of is showing that we have needs, and so consequently we're not getting a lot of the funding for projects that other counties are getting, even though we pay our fair share into it. I don't want things like this to get lost when and not prove that we have the need for this. We have a provider that does mobility management in the county, and I'm wondering, that's why I'm asking you what's COG's role, because I want to make sure that this becomes part of the the key to ensuring that our seniors and people in need get what they should be getting going forward.
Sure, absolutely. And I think you noticed and sort of identified the need for funding and accessing resources and coordination and collaboration. So that's definitely a function of this regional agency, is to do exactly that, especially working with our social service providers. And we do that through our coordinated human services transportation plan. We take agencies like Common Ground, agencies like Area 12 on Aging. We bring together all of these diverse groups and try to find ways to integrate services so that we can all do more for the people in our community who need us the most. So that's one of the primary functions of the Calaveras Council of Governments. Out of that sort of needs analysis, the Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan that we update on a 5-year basis, came the recommendation for a mobility management function. And basically, it recognized what you were saying, is that Calaveras County needs that position that is not just providing the direct service but coordinating and being that resource and referral person, connecting the people in need with the services within our community. And so that's sort of what we're looking for in that position. The Calaveras Council of Governments wrote the grant application to compete for those funds. So when you think, what is the COG's role? That's our role. If you have a funding need and you're looking for integration and coordination and how to bring a team together to be competitive, that's an area that we can help you. We may not provide the service, as in this plan. We won't be the service provider, but we can be the conduit for bringing together that level of coordination. And hopefully what it brings to your agencies or other agencies in the county are funding opportunities like this, so that the people who are in the community providing the service have additional resources to support them doing what they do. So our role is to do just that, get those funding, get the resources. It's not to be the service provider, but it's to be that conduit of coordination.
Thank you.
Sure.
So an example of that would be, Sarah, veterans associations, they have a vehicle that they use to transport veterans to medical appointments, things of that sort. Those resources could be used to actually purchase that vehicle. Is that correct?
There's, I think, a number of different ways that a program like that could be successful. So one of the things that we've written into this program is for a mobility manager to look at those types of needs. And so that mobility manager may not be the person that has to provide that trip, but that mobility manager may say to the COG, I need you to help get me funding for this. We have a nonprofit agency that has a volunteer driver program, and we have a veteran population who needs services. And then that's where we all start coordinating together to maximize efficiency and get stuff done. So my role is the funding and resource agency. We have a social service provider whose role would be the service, and then we have a community need. So that would be a really good example of how we can all work together to fund a program like that.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that to make sure that, first off, we're providing to the people in the county that are in need, but also that we don't get a grant like this and hire somebody from somewhere else if we've got somebody here that's capable of doing it also. And when I see something like this, that's why I'm asking. That, and I've just spent a lot of time trying to cultivate the services through the JPA 12. And so that's why that flag came up on that for me.
Right. Very good.
So according to this chart, we have $206,500 net budgeted chart, right?
Yes.
That's good.
Yep.
I like that.
Any other questions?
Any questions by the public?
Kelly Zonizer, Public Works. I just had a question on the mobility management line item. Is that $186,000 for 1 year, or is that over several years?
It's over 2 years.
Okay, so then I was just wondering, why do we budget it all for in this way, I guess? Because we usually budget what we're going to spend when we do our Public Works budget, so I was just wondering.
Our budgeting methodology for the overall work program is you budget all of the money in the grant award, and then you show the drawdown or expenditures by year.
Okay, so the $19,500 in LTF, that's not going to be spent all next year?
Yes, it will. That's per year.
That's per year, okay. All right, thank you.
Any further public comment? Do we have a motion to approve regular agenda item number 13, the draft overall work program and planning, programming, monitoring, and expenditure plan?
So moved.
Senator Councilman Merides, second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Catalano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 14, adopt the recommended transit performance standards as recommended by the Interagency Transit Committee. This is Ms. Collins.
As the council may recall, in February, we adopted the final, or accepted the final short-range transit plan update. And the SRTP included a list of recommended performance standards with minimum and target metrics for which to evaluate Calaveras Transit's system performance. And this is really the basis of making system efficiency improvements throughout the year and throughout that 5-year transit plan. The county staff after that worked through the Interagency Transit Committee to reevaluate the recommended standards in the short-range transit plan and bring back to the council alternative standards that were really more achievable based on current system performance. And these standards that are listed in here and recommended under the ITC recommended would come into effect in this next fiscal year. So the mid-year and final year-end reports, transit performance reports, will be evaluated against these performance metrics if adopted today. So staff recommends adoption of the ITC recommended minimum and target performance standards as presented in the staff report. And be happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
I didn't quite understand when the next re-evaluation, I think the term you used, would be performed. You have an evaluation up to a certain date already incorporated in here, and there'll be an update of that? Is that what you intended to convey?
Reevaluation of the performance metrics?
Yeah.
Those would probably be in the next short-range transit plan update, which is updated every 5 to 7 years.
Oh.
So it'll be probably a 5-year period, unless, I guess, the council or the ITC determines there'll be a change in the standards, then we would bring that back to the council. So we kind of evaluate that, I think, internally on an annual basis, whether they're still appropriate.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question is that there were some disparities pointed out in here, and there were some things that they were attributed to that will go away. And I guess there's an interest maybe in knowing if those impediments do go away, do we recover to where we expect to be?
Right, and that's a good point, and that's something we did talk about with the ITC, is once they do make these improvements and start really reaching those goals, we may need to reevaluate some of these, minimum and target standards and then bring them back to the council. And the council can also, during those mid-year or annual reports, request of staff to reevaluate them if they don't feel like they're appropriate anymore.
Okay.
Okay. Any further council comment? I saw that we had a 4-page letter from Public Works. Do we have any public comment?
The COG staff's staff report shows what we had proposed in that. It summarizes what's in that letter, a comment letter, what we proposed, and then what we, after discussion with the ITC, agreed to place as our targets and our goals, our minimums and our targets. In some places, it's a stretch. We've been struggling with ridership, and that's key in almost all of them. But, I think in discussion with the ITC, the important thing was to show that we were making progress, that we were reaching for these goals, and that we weren't going to settle for how it is now, that we're going to keep on working to move forward, with the understanding that, as we discussed, that we wouldn't be severely punished if we don't meet the minimum immediately. Okay.
Any progress on the expensive routes?
No, we're working on those. I think we need to do some serious outreach and find out when it is people need to get places, and we can work together with the other agencies to see that those needs are being met. The early in the morning, late at night bus is not cutting it, except for serving the West Point area with the after school activities route. So we're going to be looking at other options and maybe reducing services as budget constraints require.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I do have one question, Mr. Chair. Just so we're talking apples and apples here. These standards were actually developed using the information of prior performance problems and good and bad issues, and are they realistic minimums and realistic goals?
They're based on the direction we want to go on. As you can see, take for example, ridership. This last year, I'll look back at my letter. We were hoping ridership was down in this last year was 50, in 14-15, it was 57,000. So we had recommended that the minimum be 55, knowing that it could continue to decline, but we bumped it up in discussion with the ITC to 70,000. So whether that's realistic given current conditions, probably not. It's a good goal to strive for, the target of 95. Maybe if service does expand, more frequent trips that people are actually using, then yeah, maybe it's pretty high. Anything I can clarify? I don't know. That's
Best possible answer, I guess.
Any further council comment? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve? Someone believe that is adopt the recommendation here.
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember. Okay, Carney?
Oh, somebody.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
I'll take the second.
Okay, Councilmember Carney, Mirides for the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
County report, item number 16.
I'll open it up to any questions that you have on any county subject. I didn't prepare anything. We've talked about fire recovery, we've talked about capital projects, we've talked about bridge replacement programs, and I know Melissa and the rest of the COG group has talked a lot about the ever-changing nature of our transportation funding. So I'll leave it open and answer whatever you have.
Any questions for our
Was
Public
that
Works
too
Director?
general?
How's our Murphy's projects going?
Which particular one are you speaking of?
I'm sorry.
Which ones?
Oh, we've had 3 or 4 we looked at as a group, remember?
Yes. You want to handle that one, or you want me to handle that one?
Well, it's good news, so should we fight over it? We did hear back on the repurposing of the earmarks. So the county does have about $900,000 that they are going to be able to consider repurposing potentially for the paving of 6 Mile Road, which was the priority project for those funds. So we are working with Caltrans headquarters. They just issued the list and Calaveras County was on that, so we're trying to figure out how we move forward in terms of the procedures for acquiring those funds and starting a project. So that's the good news. And in terms of any priorities in Murphy's, that's sort of become now our #1 priority with the capacity that that project has to bring a meaningful impact to not only the Couts Ironstone area, but downtown Murphy's.
Thank you.
In terms of the other ones that we had talked about in the field that day, I don't believe that when we reviewed the previous pedestrian plan for downtown Murphy's, the detail was at any level that we could use to prepare an application for grant funding. And a competitive application for perhaps an ATP grant. So I think what we need would be potential call for projects and to see if we could drill those down. We've met several times on some of the sidewalk issues, and they were very specific in front of 2 or 3 businesses at one corner, at the corner of Algiers and Murphy's. So the problem with that specific issue, of course, we've discussed in terms of whether it is a publicly funded, grant funded, or responsibility of the property owner. So no, we haven't made progress on that specific project. Okay. There are a couple other ones in Murphy's that are continuing to float up and down.
I understand. Making progress then.
Yeah. Just to follow up on what Melissa talked about on the funding for 6 Mile Road, that was originally a congressional earmark that was identified to pave, or seal, actually, seal is the word they use, seal unpaved county roads or unpaved agency roads that were high priority. This earmark is fairly old, 6, 7 years old, and they were identified by predecessors of mine to go out on, I believe it was Hogan Dam Road. However, that's very low traffic volumes, and it seemed to be very low usage. Since that was not affected when I took over this position a year ago, we identified 6 Mile Road as a much higher priority, being parallel capacity with Highway 4, being an alternative way into Murphy's, and providing an alternative access to the very large events, the special events that go on at the Couts facility. So we approached Caltrans asking them if they would consider the reapportionment or the redirection of these funds, and they agreed, but it's taken the better part of a year to get the project re-identified, and now we are awaiting the criteria under which we execute. So that criteria has not yet been published.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley.
Director, do you have a feel for how many miles of our roads are going to have to be redone in the Butte Fire area yet?
That's a very loaded question.
It's a very what question?
Loaded question. It's been something that we've been struggling with since the fire. There are 2 recovery programs that are funded by 2 different federal agencies, Federal Highway and FEMA. They use the same Stafford Act criteria. However, when they have written their rules and their circulars for these programs, they allow different recovery items to be funded on different roads, whether it be something that's been identified as a federal aid road or it's been identified as a public assistance road. Of the 81 miles of road within the burn area under the jurisdiction of Calaveras County, about 39 to 40 are federal aid, about 40 to 41 are public assistance. So the primary criteria on the public assistance road is that the roads will be returned to the condition that they were in prior to the fire. And what that means is that we've had roads that have been maintained or under-maintained, as it was, with a patchwork of patching. They don't meet a pavement criteria, they don't meet a smoothness criteria, they don't meet a speed criteria, they don't meet a width criteria. And so what we will do is expend as much as we possibly can to get as close to recovery as we can. However, they have also tentatively given us some indication that the damage that the roads have taken on post-fire, due to the recovery operations, whether it be the debris removal, the restoration of utilities, portion of that may be funded. We've taken on a significant amount of damage. So that's good. However, no funding for culverts, no funding for erosion and sediment control or stabilization or preventative measures that are not associated with the fire. Okay? On the opposite side, on the federal aid side, which is federal highways, we are potentially enabled to handle some culvert replacement, some repaving, to recover to a service use level, which is a term I just made up. I'm not going to say a level of service because that's a real term. However, they will not fund any of the damage that we've taken on due to traffic post-fire. So essentially what's going to end up happening is that we have done a number of estimates for recovery. Baseline, baseline prepared by us and agreed upon by one of the other agencies, which would be the minimum. Then there is a large chunk of change for what we actually think we need above and beyond that. That will not come out of these two programs. And so therefore, if you look at entire total number of roads within the burn area, we are looking at in debris removal and repair costs for both programs in the neighborhood, I believe it's around 15 to 20 million. And we have the unmet defined needs that are in the neighborhood of 35 to 40. Okay? So my guess is that we'll meet our minimums, but what happens beyond that, it is not yet determined. So we're still working our way through that. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
So as I understand that, Director, we can't go in and actually make these roads any better than we did before the fire.
That's correct.
Economically. But in actuality, should we go in and repair these roads, we got to bring those up to a condition that's going to last for a while. So it's going to be at least at a level higher than they were before the fire. Is that correct?
I don't exactly know how to answer that. If the funding isn't available, how do we do that?
That was my next question.
Okay? If the funding is not available, how do we do that? Of course, there are alternatives. We could shut down all capital programs and redirect whatever funds that we can that are applicable. However, all money in transportation world is colored. Certain money has to be spent. We can't spend, for example, any pedestrian or bicycle funds on trying to recover these roads. We probably cannot spend CMAQ funds or air quality appropriations for this kind of work. So the question is, what are we going to do? What are our priorities based on the funding level? So to me, my approach is that we will expend everything that we know will be funded, where we will not be asked 3, 5, 7 years from now to repay it, because FEMA or Federal Highways determined that either our process or the approval was inappropriate. We can't afford that.
Please understand, it wasn't my intention to put you on the spot.
No.
The intention was to educate folks here in our COG meetings and also folks watching on public access TV how involved this process is. But we cannot fix these roads to a certain level of what it was. We have to repair these roads with the future in mind to last for a while, minus any catastrophe that could happen.
Correct. Just to give you an example, the loss of the culvert on Mountain Ranch Road and the replacement of that, which I think will cost Public Works in the neighborhood of $30,000, none of that is eligible under either of these programs. Can a case be made that the failure of that culvert and the loss of that that crossing on Mountain Ranch Road was at least partially, the burn was partially responsible because of the amount of bulking in the soil and the sediment in the runoff and the scouring of the culvert? Yes, a case can be made for that, but it doesn't matter. So I guess my response to you is that we will expend all money that we can and all options for additional funds that we can in the wisest way possible. But if there's an expectation that, A, the roads will be in better condition than they were the day before the fire, that's probably an unrealistic expectation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Close.
Any other questions?
If I might add to Jeff's comments about that, I think that this comes at a time when we're struggling with this transportation funding crisis. And there is a transportation funding crisis that is affecting us at a regional level. It's affecting Jeff at a local streets and roads level, evaluating their gas tax revenue. They're down $1 million within the last 2 years, at least, and the impact could potentially be more severe. And at this point, there is no long-term solution to that. So what's happening is We are faced with this crisis at a moment in time where the Public Works Department is faced with ever decreasing revenue to do the job they used to do pre-fire. So it's a difficult situation, I think, for Jeff and his staff to be in. And I think what we're seeing is county-wide demands increasing, county-wide assets deteriorating, and the revenue streams to support them are not coming to rural communities anymore. We don't have local revenue streams to support our infrastructure, and it's only going to be compounded over the next 3 to 5 years. So I think Jeff and I are working together. We've met with the CAO, we've met with city staff. We're starting to talk about this more, but I think the Board of Supervisors will start hearing from us more and more about this funding crisis and the impacts that it's going to have on your local jurisdictions.
Thank you, and that's very important that the Board of Supervisors be made aware of these situations. Speaking as a member of the council here, I realize that our resources are dwindling, and we're not going to be able to count on the resources from state and federal means like we did in the past. So, as a county and as a board, we're going to need to make sacrifices in areas and prioritize what we need to make this county survivable and prosperous. I want everybody to keep that in mind coming into the budget areas that we're going to be facing the next 2 to 3 months. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is the Caltrans report. Looking out for Mr. Baker. I don't see him, but it looks like we have a young lady here.
Oh, young. Thank you. Good evening, commissioners, supervisors, staff. I'm Michelle Demetris from Caltrans District 10. I'm here in a place of Carl Baker, who's in Mariposa County this evening. So hopefully I'll be able to take your questions and concerns back. We'll try to answer anything I can here, but may or may not be able to. It's my understanding that the concerns and questions you had last month had been answered. I saw an email trail, so if there's still anything outstanding, you can let me know and I'll take that back to our office.
No, but please do thank Carl.
Okay, great. Let's see. I have new copies of the mile marker that everybody's been waiting for, I'm sure. It's our latest publication. There are performance measures that we continue to work on. So hopefully you'll find that interesting. Also, our planner, do you have one more? Are we missing? Okay, good. Our planner, Kevin Schroeder, attended a stakeholder meeting for the San Andreas Partnership Grant recently, and my understanding is that that's just getting started and sort of getting kicked off, which is great. Another area that I'd just like to bring up is tree mortality is a big deal. Recently, we're engaged in the process. We appreciate a partnership with our local partners on this drought-related problem, and that would be a maintenance and operations issue from the district level, and that would be Sam Hack. I think most of you are familiar with her. She runs that area. Also, there was a question about spraying in San Andreas. Recently, I think it was today or maybe yesterday, we referred that request to landscape maintenance. My understanding is that it's a precursor to your cleanup day.
Correct.
That hopefully will kill some weeds before you get out there to finish off the job. And finally, May is Bike Month, for those of you who didn't know. And there is a regional forum for public agencies. Caltrans is conducting these forums across the state with local and regional agencies to support the development of the first California state bicycle and pedestrian plan. And we're seeking input from our partners and from the public and from interested people to promote the multimodal transportation system that supports this. And Melissa, I think you should have received a email to
I
that
believe we did.
effect? Okay,
In
I have a flyer if anybody's interested.
Is that the one where we RSVP to you, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay, I think,
And there's nothing set for Sacramento, which is probably where you would want to go.
Exactly, okay.
Sometime in May, yeah.
I'm keeping an eye on it.
Right. That's about all I have tonight, so if anybody has any questions or things that you'd like me to pass on to the district, I'd be happy to take those.
Council?
No?
Public?
Okay, thank you very much.
Michelle, I just wanted to know for the spraying, did they have a date that they anticipated getting that completed, or
Oh, the spraying?
or just had been referred to the
It had been
appropriate people?
referred today. I got copied on it just because of tonight, so.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully that'll happen soon. It was something that had happened, that John Gedney, I guess, put in, so they're just trying to replicate that from
Okay.
last year.
Very good. And if you can just let me know when they plan to be out so I can let the interested property owner know.
Okay, will
Thank
do.
you.
Okay. Regular item number 18, city report. Mr. Hanham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dave Ham, City of Angels. Sorry about for the hacking in the back. Just have a couple items, or to update the council on a few items. One is the city is working with Caltrans on our final relinquishment agreement with some properties we had on the 4 and 49 project on Vallecito Road and the bridge. So we're in the process of working, completing that process. We're starting to look at starting up the process for the 4 and 49 PSR. As the council is aware, we just completed our Gateway Corridor study, and one of the purposes for that study was to take a look at the accesses of Foundry Lane and Angel Oaks. And so as part of our next steps, based on some council direction we've taken, we're in the process of just beginning that process with Caltrans. We are continuing work on our Murphy's Grade Road project. We'll be working with COG staff to work on some programming of some dollars and some different alternatives that will keep that project moving. Met today with a consultant on our Angels Creek Trail project. Well, it's not Angels Creek Trail, it's Angels Creek Pedestrian Sidewalks and Trail Project. We met with them. We're basically, the council approved the contract to work with Drake Hagelin Associates for that project, which consists of project design and environmental for about 2,600 lineal feet of sidewalk and about a quarter mile of the Angels Creek Trail into a bike and pedestrian facility. And also design a park and ride lot. So we're finalizing some contract and scope of work issues to get that project started. We are getting really ramped up for our Sustainable Communities grant. Been working with Amber and the consultants on that project. We've got some stakeholder advisory stuff going on next week on the 11th and 12th. So we'll be working on getting that project started for our downtown plan. And that's about it right now. So unless there's any questions or anything, we have to answer any questions on any projects.
Council? Public?
Dave, if you and I could chat after the meeting about the programming for CMAC.
Yep. You can't leave tonight.
Thank you. Item number 19, the transit report.
All right, for next month, for Bike Month, I just want to remind everybody that you can take your bikes along on the bus, right? So since we spoke last, we've installed the radios, new radio system in the buses, and they're working quite well. We have good coverage up the Highway 4 corridor and up Highway 26, Glencoe, West Point Railroad. Problem areas are down the hill more, Valley Springs, Rancho, and down to Stockton in some areas. I was on the bus in Stockton and heard the radio loud and clear, but there are places where it doesn't come in well. And for some reason, Government Center is a dead zone. I know. So we might be working with our communications partners and looking at ways to fill in those gaps. I don't know about Government Center. But down the hill more. 2 weeks ago, attended the CALACT conference in San Diego. That's the California Association of Coordinated Transportation. It was a great opportunity. Went attended a lot of sessions that fills in some of the gaps and gives opportunities to talk to other people in other agencies. Attended a session in the low carbon transit operations program. That's the grant funds that we have for this year's green tickets, and next year will be if we awarded the grant for our Saturday service. So there was a lot of talk about the nuts and bolts of carrying on the program, and last week they, in the spirit of transparency, they put all the applications online. So that will help all the agencies going forward, as you can peek at the language and the calculations of carbon emissions that other agencies use in their applications. So that was good. Attended sessions on building websites and information systems. There was a very good session on linking transit to outdoor recreation. The stars of that show were the transit agency that provides way to get to Mammoth Lakes, where you have big bucks support for the transit system, and there is no other way to get up the mountain or park a car. So we don't have an opportunity like that, but I think we have a lot of possibilities that we can tap into with our destinations that we have, particularly up Murphy's and the wineries and such. So hopefully our Saturday service will be a springboard that we can build on, to build partnerships and support for that service. Less glamorous was a session on DBE reporting and other things of that sort. There are a lot of vendors at the conference. Cynthia Lawrence, our transit operator, was in attendance as well, and we targeted our contacts there to what we're working on with our AVL, real-time passenger information systems, with phones and web apps. We're going to be putting together an RFP, hopefully soon, to grant that award the next fiscal year and get that system up to speed. There's a lot of new acronyms to learn and ways to talk about it, so it was really good being able to talk to the vendors, talk about what we are, how we are, what forms we need, and get a system that's catered to our needs. Very special to us, we were honored at the conference with Calaveras Transit, Lake Transit, and Paratransit Services, which is the operator for both agencies. We were recognized for above and beyond for our response during the Butte Fire, Butte Fire and Rocky Fire and Valley Fire in Lake County. And so that was very exciting. And then the next exciting thing we have looking forward is the fair. And I'm hoping that you all volunteer to work at our transit booth. It's a great opportunity to talk to people, talk about transit. And if anybody wants to tell me right now what days, what times you'd like to volunteer, I'll jot it down. Probably lose it, but I'll get back to you. Or you can contact me. Okay.
Put together a little matrix maybe with some slots?
Yeah. They're all empty right now, so.
I figured as well.
Did you start using the smaller buses yet?
The new buses we have purchased are smaller than, they're 16 passenger. We also have the 2 vans. And yes, we have been using the vans when it's clear that there won't be, particularly for like the morning West Point run.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other transit questions? Okay.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Jeff Kravitz, Director of Public Works. Didn't want to leave you with all doom and gloom. There were 2 things that I wanted to let you know. Number 1, the 1226 project is complete. Construction is complete. The only thing remaining is the paperwork for a closure. And then something that was brought up at the question in the last meeting from Caltrans, the intersection improvements at 26 and St. Andrews in Valley Springs is going. So we should see that over the next several months. They've cleared and grubbed, and I think that the heavy equipment would be showing up pretty quickly.
Okay.
That's planned.
Actually, Carl Baker told me that a lot of the actual changing of the asphalt, et cetera, would be next year. They were doing the safety things now. Did I misunderstand him on that?
I thought that they had started, and that was my understanding.
They've cleared trees
Yep.
and things of that nature. I'll double check the note that he gave me.
Okay.
Maybe I am misunderstanding.
Yeah, I thought it was this year. I thought that was scheduled for this year, but I could be wrong as well. Questions? Thank you.
Staff reports.
All right, I'll go ahead and start. I wanted to let the council know that our May meeting, we will have a representative from the California Transportation Commission coming to talk to the Calaveras Council of Governments and interested members of the public on the road user charge pilot program. We talk about the gas tax, the needed support that it provides rural communities in terms of our transportation infrastructure. It's not a sustainable revenue source. It's the source of our problems, and until they identify an alternative, we will continue to see ever declining revenue with increased fuel efficiency and lower gas prices. So the state is moving forward with a VMT, sort of a pay-as-you-go structure, and so they would like volunteers from rural communities to sign up for their pilot program. I think regardless of the program that gets ultimately adopted by the state, will impact rural communities. So I think it's our opportunity now to participate, to see how a per gallon gas tax versus a per mile tax will affect rural residents and our commute patterns and our regional travel. So they will be here at our May meeting, and so I think that that's an exciting opportunity to really educate and inform our residents here in Calaveras County. I also wanted to let you know that because of the crisis that is affecting not only regional agencies, but now adversely affecting our counties, we are working as a 5-county collaborative with Amador, Tuolumne, Mariposa, and Alpine. We are hoping, and we're hoping to get some sort of letter of agreement that we might be able to take to the jurisdictions that advocate for some points that could benefit frontier rural counties in terms of transportation funding. So we're working on that. Hopefully it will materialize into something that we can bring forward to our elected officials. But it is quite an extensive process with 5 counties, and reaching that level of consensus could be difficult. But we feel that it's important as the regional executive directors to give it a try. There are 3 proposals on the table, and we feel if we don't sort of advocate from a rural perspective, our financial interests may not be supported or met within those proposals ultimately. So from our perspective, our time to get involved would be now. I'd like to turn it over to Amber to see if she has any staff reports, unless there's any questions from the council for me.
Sure, I just have one little project that I wanted to update you on. We're working on a marketing outreach campaign. As you know, bicycle and pedestrian safety is a big issue in San Andreas, and so working with developing a pilot program here in San Andreas, working with the San Andreas Elementary School, CHP, Public Health, and Parks and Rec District, creating really a toolkit for the school here to use. And for the community, we're creating marketing materials and messages that can really be, put up on banners or posters throughout the community, and then also working with the school and putting together activities like a walk to school day that might be in the fall. So the first kind of activity we just did that started in March was a safety poster contest with the elementary school kids, and they had like a kickoff assembly at the beginning of March and submitted posters, and this week they're going to announce 2 winners from, I think, K through 6 and then 6 through 8. I can't remember the age groups, but they'll have 2 winners of the posters, and those posters will be used for the design of the marketing, like the education materials that will be distributed throughout the community. And we're going to try to go to Board of Supervisors at the end of this month, and we're trying to figure out what, either creating t-shirts or bags with the posters on it for the Board of Supervisors, and then hopefully the board can present to them maybe some certificates. So hopefully we'll be able to bring the kids and their parents to the board meeting just for the recognition for their contribution to the community. So that's a fun little project, and you know, we sometimes don't have construction funding, so we use our planning funds to try to get more awareness out to not only people walking, but people driving through town to get them to kind of slow down and recognize that there's pedestrians on the road.
Okay, good.
This was a great collaborative effort between CHP, San Andreas Elementary, and then they will have all of the posters on display, I think, in the board chambers as well. So all the kids' artwork, and we're hoping that we might be able to put a few of the posters at the CHP office as well. But they were a very big partner in making sure that they're communicating safety messages to kids while they're trying to walk and bike on our state highways with limited bike and ped infrastructure. So it was a great partnership. I think the school had a good time with it, and we'll see what the final results of the poster contest look like.
Good.
Melissa, did you have?
Carly?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. I will take care of the staff reports. Council member reports. I'll go ahead and look ladies first. Amanda?
Nothing to report.
I have nothing.
A group of us took a trip on the transit bus to Stockton from here,
Uh-huh.
so that went well.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
All right. Steve?
No, I really do want to thank everybody for putting together the trip we had to the California Transportation Commission hearing. It went well. There was a very good presentation by our executive director. I felt that it was good that I was there as well as the rest of the group, even though we didn't say anything other than wave. That's probably the best testimony you can give sometimes, but we are still advocating to get funding for the Stagecoach project, and I can tell you your group did a good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, one other thing that occurred at the end of March is Melissa and I attended the the California Council of Governments What's Transportation's Future, or What's Transportation's Funding Regional Leadership Forum. And they had a number of outstanding sessions, everything from a successful project down in the Coachella Valley on a 50-mile link that they're linking a number of communities down there, to a new financing concept called Enhanced Infrastructure Financing Districts, which might be a redevelopment style type funding mechanism for different areas, and whether it's urban or rural. 3 different professors who are doctorates speaking on different issues in transportation, ranging from UC Davis and the Air Resources Board, what data they can collect now that is allowing new transportation planning to move forward in ways they never envisioned even 5 years ago. All of us can probably remember the tubes across the street where they can count numbers of vehicles going across. Now there's a lot of data out there from some of these companies that are doing the ride sharing, Uber, Lyft, and others, that are sharing their data as to when people are traveling point A, point B, and how to mine that data in transportation planning to make it more effective as far as transportation planning in general. And then also a very interesting concept called the Hyperloop, which actually had its genesis in this New York subway back in the 1800s, of putting people in pods, shooting them down a pipe, and where technology in the 1800s really couldn't make that happen. Technology in the 21st century, 22nd century now, is much more viable. Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla and SpaceX, actually wrote a white paper, and there are 2 competing groups with this Hyperloop concept, with an active 5-mile track being slated right now in the Bakersfield area to be a development demonstration, but with international implications in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, and Indonesia, also looking at the same transportation technology. Finally, one of the other interesting things was the connected and automated vehicles discussions, where everybody's hearing a lot about automated vehicles, the hands-free driving, which is actually already in play with some of the Tesla vehicles and others now. Mercedes has adaptive cruise control, but also now the connected vehicles where they've got a data standard internationally accepted, where vehicles themselves through a short distance can communicate with each other. So if you come up to a blind intersection and your vehicle senses that somebody's coming in the other direction and is going to not stop, your vehicle will sense that even if you can't see it and slow you down and potentially stop you. The goal is to actually in the next 20 to 25 years reduce by half the number of fatalities on collision style accidents at intersections. So it's pretty substantive technology that is happening and happening today. So it was a fascinating conference. There's a lot more that we could probably go over, but the nexus of it is I appreciate the council's support in having us as a Calaveras County COG attend these conferences. There's a lot of good stuff happening. It is such a dynamically changing environment with respect to funding right now. The last thing I'll close with is the funding of local monies and leveraging those local monies to get federal monies. We, as I understand it, were eligible for a FLAP grant for the wagon trail. That's a federal lands project grant. We had no local money to put up for it. We cannot take blended money that we already have that comes from the feds to put back towards a project like that. And so even though we were the #1 project, they said that was a viable project, we couldn't apply for it because we had no local money to put up there. So one of the concepts that's out there, and we've had a council, or we've had a forum on it, is aspiring or self-help counties, where we advocate for an increase in the gas tax to fund local transportation projects, or an increase in the sales tax. And I think, are going to have to be looking at that in the near term, at least as a concept, to show both the legislature at the state level as well as our federal partners that we're at least trying to do everything we can on a local level to try and get money put together to leverage their money. And the return on that is substantial. I want to say it's around 10 to 1, or if we can put up $1 million in money here from locally, we can get additional 10 coming back from the feds. I think that was the level on the FLAP grant. It was around that ratio. So this is serious money that if we work a little harder at getting some here locally, we can move bigger steps forward, and we have those needs here in this county. We heard it from Jeff. We see it locally every day when we drive around here. So again, I just want to close and say thank you for the opportunity to go to this conference. It was excellent, and we'll certainly be continue to keep our eyes open on these sorts of things. Steve.
I want to correct myself.
Okay.
I said the Stagecoach project. I saw something in your eye. I was thinking of Stagecoach Drive. It's actually the wagon train.
Yes, okay. It's okay. It's okay.
You're very polite for not calling me on the carpet.
It's okay, because I know you know. I know you know.
Too many
it's okay.
things in there.
I know you know.
Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn our meeting here. Our next scheduled meeting of the COG is on May 4th here in the chambers at 5:30. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, folks.